The Heat is about an uptight FBI special agent, Sarah Ashburn, who's paired with a testy Boston cop, Shannon Mullins, in order to take down a ruthless drug lord. But neither woman has ever had a partner or a friend. Starring Sandra Bullock and Melissa McCarthy, directed by Paul Feig, screenplay by Katie Dippold. Bob, it was in offerings in the multiplex this weekend, but I was actually moderately optimistic about this one. I enjoyed Bridesmaids from a couple of years back, also directed by Paul Feig, so I thought this might not be bad. Did you have a mini review?
I do. I wasn't quite as optimistic as you, and it sort of met my expectations, which weren't that high. I thought it was
All
going to be
right.
middle of the road, and that's kind of where it came out for me. So here's what I thought. My mini review: The Heat, 3 out of 5. I'm still waiting for the project that will let Melissa McCarthy shine as the lead. She's pretty funny, but can barely offset a generic plot plus the blah factor that has become the one character Sandra Bullock plays herself. Sorry, Sandra.
Ooh. Ooh, all right. You're putting the blame on Sandra Bullock, huh?
Well, and the generic plot, I didn't think that, I'm putting I'm shining the light on Melissa McCarthy. Glasses half full.
Okay, sounds good. All right, well, let me give my mini review. Solid performances by Bullock and especially McCarthy couldn't overcome the poorly written characters and ridiculous plot. 2 out of 5.
Again, your optimism in the beginning is clouded by your actual review, which is way worse. That's cool though. I'm glad you came out negative on this. Well, I'm not glad, but
Yeah, well, you're right. McCarthy is the shining star of this one. I it's interesting. Let's talk about Sandra Bullock here. So, I had read your mini review before I went to see it, and I was paying attention to this one, um, and I placed pretty much all the blame on the screenplay here. If because you think about how it's written, just a woman cop who's I guess supposed to be smart, I guess supposed to be good at what she does, but not in touch with her street smarts or her femininity or something, just like robotic and uptight. I think it's a poorly drawn character, but if you have that character as a given, who are you going to get to play it? You know what? Sandra Bullock comes to mind. And if you have a bad character to play, I think Sandra Bullock did it as well as could be expected.
right. I mean, who else is she going to play? Does she ever play like a 60s flower child, free with the wind sort of? No, no. She's always like the uptight, I give 110%. I work really hard and I'm funny for it because I'm the drama queen for how hard I work and how misunderstood I am. And then the guy in my opposite me in the romantic comedy is, the opposite of me or whatever. That's kind of what she keeps doing over and over again. It was funny the first 7 times.
That's true. That is true. I wonder if this was written with her exactly in mind.
Hard to say, yeah.
Um, so, and the other thing I wanted to say is there was one part of this movie that I actually enjoyed quite a bit.
Oh,
That is the relationship between Sandra Bullock and Melissa McCarthy's characters. I thought they had great chemistry, and I
yeah.
even felt a little twinge of emotion at the end when they made that cheap play for sentimentality. And yeah, I guess that's as much as I'll say about the details of that. But I thought their chemistry was really good.
Yeah, yeah, fair enough. I agree. It was nice to see them interacting, even if at times it was through the stereotypical, like, here's the scene where they're in a bar and one of them has never apparently been drunk before and the other one helps her out by secretly getting her more drinks and then they do crazy things and it's like, wah, wah. But even though that's the setup, they still handle it very well and they're believable as friends, even if they're not believable as the environment they're put in and the way they become friends or whatever.
Yeah, or another example, pretty much like what you said, was that I guess Sandra Bullock's character is like never swears, and
Yeah, until the
then
very end, and that was kind of subtle, or it wasn't. Well, I guess it wasn't subtle, but they didn't talk about it directly. It's just she never sweared, and then she did by the end.
and that signified that she had come around to liking Melissa McCarthy's character or something, or having sympathy for her. Because now I
Right.
swear, really awkwardly.
Really, yeah, exactly.
Um, and I was even hoping to like the screenplay. Katie Dippold, if that's how you say it. I guess she's written for like Parks and Recreation and other TV shows I like. But like I say, I, I couldn't have much good to say about it at all. It was just the writing was the huge problem. The characters were uneven, inconsistent, and this mishmash of cliches, like I think you're already talking about. And that plot, Bob, was it trying to spoof action movies? It couldn't have been serious, could it?
Yeah, if it was a spoof, it didn't do a very good job of showing us that it's spoofy because like there were a lot of scenes with these villains that were ridiculous and they would have their monologue moments and then they'd all point guns at each other and talk for a while and expose the backstory of why they're doing what they're doing before they get killed. And I don't know, it's just really stupid.
Yeah, the bizarre twists and surprises that made the story seem like a joke, and maybe it was a joke that I just didn't get, but in any case, I did not like it.
Right. Me neither.
And let me ask about this. There's a particular scene that I think you will have remembered in the Denny's.
I'm trying to remember. Keep going.
Oh, that isn't enough, huh? So, there's an emergency in the Denny's, and Sandra Bullock's character
Oh, yes. Okay, thank you. I
tries
remember
to
now.
deal with it.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, that was. I, I'm smiling, laughing about it, but it was just ridiculous. I think it was rather unnecessary.
It
I don't
was
know.
out of
What about you?
place, and yeah, I agree. It was sort of funny, but in a different, it was different humor than the rest of the show, and it felt almost, yeah, it was just out of place, slapstick or something else. And speaking of which, the movie was too long. It was pushing 2 hours nearly, and it was the type of comedy that deserved to be no longer than an hour and a half. I mean, it's a buddy cop comedy. You don't
Yeah.
need more than 90 minutes.
Yeah. So yeah, there's a lot to not like about this movie. And if it had not been for the excellent chemistry between the leads, this would have been one of the worst movies I can remember seeing. But luckily, that gives it a star up to two.
Well, wow. So this is our interesting. We're gonna have a meta conversation on like rating calibration, but I
Okay.
really thought Melissa McCarthy was funny whenever she delivered her lines, even if they're not as funny as other lines that could potentially be funnier. She's just really good at being funny with her voice inflection and her facial expressions, and she just acts it out well and is believable. And she's refreshing because she's not your typical Hollywood actress, I guess. And I I love watching her. I would love to see more of her, but even though she was in the lead, I'm basically giving my movie review to her. Like the movie gets a 3 out of 5 because of her, but you're saying even though you were pivoting more on the chemistry between the two of them, and even that, and maybe a little bit of Melissa McCarthy being cool or funny in your mind wasn't enough to bump it to 3 stars. You're still like a solid 2.
Yeah, I regret seeing the movie. If that helps factor in there, I wish I hadn't seen it.
Okay, for me it was a net negative or a net neutral. It was like it was okay.
All
Anyway,
right,
but
all right.
I think we both know that my tolerance level is maybe a little higher than yours or whatever. But that's how it goes with
Yeah,
movies.
that's true. But I don't mean to disagree with anything you said about Melissa McCarthy. She was really great in it.
Cool.
That's about all I have to say. Anything else, Bob?
No, I think it's hit and miss for the folks out there. Go see it if you feel like a comedy and you like Melissa McCarthy, but don't expect much, and maybe pass if you don't want something that's kind of on the line there.